Noah Blake wasn't someone people often noticed. He lived alone and ran a small watch repair shop tucked away on an old street. No flashy signs, no ads, just the familiar tick-tock that greeted anyone who stepped through the door. That morning, as he carefully replaced the hour hand on a 1960s wall clock, the bell above the door rang softly. An elderly man entered, tall, thin, wearing a dark gray coat. In his hand was a worn wooden box. His expression was unreadable as his eyes swept over the motionless clocks in the shop. "Do you fix grandfather clocks?" His voice was deep and steady. Noah nodded, removed his magnifying lens, and stepped out from behind the counter. "This one stopped in 1982, the man said as he placed the wooden box on the table. Inside was a round wooden clock face, its glass scratched, the hands frozen at exactly 3:17 p.m. Noah examined it closely. "I'll need to check the entire mechanism. Did you bring the frame with you?" "No," the man shook his head. "You'll have to come to my house." He reached into his coat and handed Noah an old business card. "Edmund Weller, 1098 Maple Street." Noah paused. He knew that house. Large, worn, sitting on the edge of town beside an abandoned church. The lights there hadn't been on in years. "Tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Sharp," Edmund said, then turned and walked out without waiting for a reply. The door closed behind him. Silence settled over the shop. Noah turned over the business card. On the back, faint handwriting read, "Not every clock needs to run, but some need to come back to life." He glanced again at the clock face, still frozen at 3:17. For years, Noah had lived in a world of gears and springs, where every day repeated itself with mechanical certainty. But for the first time in a long while, something felt different. The man's final words echoed in his mind. Tomorrow. 3 o'clock. Sharp Noah didn't know what he was about to step into, but deep down, he sensed one thing. This wasn't just about a clock that had stopped ticking. It was about a person. Maybe two. 3 p.m. the next day, Noah stood in front of 1098 Maple Street. The house looked like time had forgotten it. Curtains drawn, dust on the porch, ivy tangled around rusted railings. If not for the faint golden light glowing from within, he would have thought he had the wrong address. The door opened before he could knock. Edmund Weller stood there, wearing the same gray coat as before. But this time, his eyes weren't cold. There was something in them. Something like waiting. "Right on time," he said simply, then turned and gestured for Noah to come in. Inside was a different world. Every wall was covered with clocks. Wall clocks, mantel clocks, pendulums, pocket watches arranged neatly behind glass. Perhaps hundreds. But the strangest part? They all showed the same time. 3:17. Noah froze. It felt like he had walked into a cemetery of time. "They're not broken," Edmund said behind him. "I stopped them." Noah turned. Edmund was staring at a tall grandfather clock in the center of the room. Walnut wood polished with age, carved with intricate detail. "April 14th, 1982, 3:17 p.m. I stopped the first one at that exact moment. Then, all of them." Noah didn't ask why. Not because he wasn't curious, but because Edmund didn't need someone curious. He needed someone who could understand. A long silence passed before Edmund spoke again. "What do you think time is, Noah?" The question caught him off guard. "It's something we can never get back," Noah replied softly. Edmund nodded. His eyes shimmered with something between sorrow and memory. "Exactly, but sometimes we also don't know what to do with it while we still have it." He walked over to a wooden desk near the window and pulled out a small box. Inside was a silver pocket watch, beautifully engraved. Unlike all the others, this one was still ticking, steady, alive. "This one never stopped," Edmund said, "and I want you to keep it." Noah's eyes widened. "But why?" Edmund looked at him for a long moment, then answered, voice low but no longer cold. "Because I'm leaving this world soon, and I need someone to live the rest of it for me." He gently slid the watch across the table. "It's not a repayment, it's a sharing." Noah picked it up, small but heavy, like it carried a story no one else had dared to tell. That afternoon, Noah walked across town to find a special gear for the pocket watch Edmund had given him. The wind was cool, leaves scattered gently along the sidewalk. As he neared the third corner, a soft voice called out, "Today I have red tulips, hyacinths, and a few sunflowers, in case you need a little sunshine." Noah stopped. A small table stood against a brick wall, covered with neatly wrapped bouquets in newspaper. Behind it sat a young woman, her brown hair tied back. She wore dark sunglasses, and her eyes weren't focused on anything. She couldn't see, yet she smiled gently and asked, "Would you like to choose a flower?" Noah hesitated, then stepped closer. "I was just passing by." "Then you must walk very lightly," she replied. "I'd guess you're tall, not too heavy, with steady steps, but a little hesitant, right?" Noah chuckled. "How do you know that?" "From your footsteps, the way your shoes touch the ground, and the way you stayed silent for the first few seconds. I meet quiet types like you often." She tilted her head slightly. "I'm Lillian." "Noah," he replied, surprised by how naturally his name came out. He picked a bouquet of tulips, not because he needed flowers, but because he didn't want to leave just yet. "Are you from around here?" "Number just staying a while, helping someone fix a few clocks." Lillian nodded. "They say clocks can count time, but never keep it." Noah paused. That sounded exactly like something Edmund once said. "And you?" he asked. "Selling flowers here every day. Don't you get tired?" "Not really. I read the time by bird calls, the weather by the wind, and people by their footsteps." She smiled. "I don't need sight to know what's beautiful." As Noah turned to leave, she called out gently, "If you pass by again tomorrow, bring your voice." I didn't hear it clearly enough today. Noah smiled. In his pocket, the watch ticked steadily, as if agreeing with a feeling he hadn't yet named. That afternoon, Noah returned to Edmund's house after a short phone call. "I have something I want to show you." The house was as quiet as ever, but today something felt different. Softer light, heavier air. Edmund sat by the window, holding a photo frame dusted with time. He didn't look up as Noah entered. "Have you ever held back something you should have said?" he murmured, "just because you thought there'd be more time?" Noah didn't answer. He quietly took the seat across from him. Edmund placed the photo frame on the table. A young woman smiled from within, eyes gentle, her expression as warm as spring sunlight. "Margaret," he said softly, "the only person I ever wanted to spend my life with. We got engaged that April. I chose the date, bought the ring, reserved our favorite restaurant." He paused, his hands trembled slightly. "That afternoon, I proposed to her beneath an old oak tree in the park. She laughed and said, 'I've been waiting for that question since last spring.'" They parted ways at exactly 3:17 p.m. Edmund remembered because he looked at his watch just before she left. An hour later, a stranger called from the hospital. "Margaret was in a car accident. I rushed there, but it was too late." His voice cracked. "That night, I stared at the clock in my room. It still showed 3:17. I stopped it. Then, I stopped them all." Noah looked around. Dozens of clocks frozen in time, like memories too fragile to move forward. "People think I'm eccentric," Edmund said quietly. "But truth is, I was just afraid time would keep moving without her." He turned to Noah, his eyes lighter than before. "You're still young. Don't wait. Don't let love become a promise left unfinished." He gently touched the pocket watch on the table. "Help me, Noah. Remember how to live." One afternoon, while passing by a small diner, Noah thought, if he agrees to come out, maybe something will shift. Surprisingly, Edmund nodded. When Noah mentioned inviting someone else, Edmund simply asked, "Anyone else?" Noah smiled. "Lillian, the flower girl I told you about. She can't see the world, but somehow she sees what most people miss." That evening, they met at the garden table, a cozy little diner with warm yellow lights and red-white checkered cloths. Noah arrived first. Lillian came with a familiar cab driver, holding a small bouquet. Edmund arrived last, slow, steady, with a wooden cane in hand. At first, no one said much. Edmund glanced at the menu, then around the room. as if breathing in a long-forgotten life. Seems like someone still bakes bread by hand, he murmured. Lillian chuckled. Bread has feelings too. Rush it, and it gets upset. Dinner passed in quiet laughter. Lillian spoke of time through birdsong, mood through footsteps. Edmund listened. Then he spoke. Slowly, hesitantly at first, then more freely. No one checked the time. No one mentioned clocks. Only the moment mattered. On the way home, Lillian whispered. His voice trembled, like someone learning to breathe again after surfacing from deep water. She smiled. But his heart beats loud and clear. Noah looked back at Edmund, walking slowly but no longer alone. The next day, Noah opened the pocket watch Edmund had given him. For the first time. Inside, engraved in fine letters, Margaret, 3:17 p.m. Noah brought the watch to Edmund. I opened it. I saw her name. Edmund didn't flinch. He only let out a deep breath. That was the watch I carried when I proposed to Margaret. 3:17 p.m. She said yes. That evening, she died. The watch kept ticking, and I couldn't stop it, as if it kept running, that moment still existed somewhere. Noah gently touched the ticking watch. Steady, alive. I understand now. It's not just a watch. It's the moment you never wanted to lose. Edmund nodded. I'm not afraid of time, Noah. I'm just afraid of it moving on without her. That morning, Edmund left home, telling Noah, I need to visit the cemetery. It was the first time he'd ever asked someone else to stay behind. When the old iron gate closed behind him, Noah stood alone in the house, surrounded by silent clocks. And then he began. The first was the pendulum clock in the hallway. He cleaned it, changed the spring, checked each rusty gear. Tick, tock. A soft sound echoed, small but enough to stir the air. One by one, Noah revived them. Wall clocks, desk clocks, pocket watches. He skipped lunch. No music, no words, only the steady heartbeat of time waking up. By dusk, he had repaired the grandest clock in the living room. When Edmund returned, he froze just a few steps inside. Ticking sounds filled the space, gentle, rhythmic, alive. He stared at the walls where the clocks now pulsed like a quiet symphony. Then slowly, Edmund lifted his hand to his eyes. Noah thought he was upset, but he wasn't. Edmund cried. Not loud, just silent tears slipping down a weathered face, like time quietly folding back on itself. After a moment, he turned to Noah, voice hoarse but clear. Thank you for letting me hear time again. That night, for the first time in 42 years, Edmund slept in a house full of ticking clocks and didn't fear time passing anymore. On Tuesday morning, Noah carried flowers, something he'd grown used to doing. He never planned it, but every time he passed Lillian's corner, he brought something small. But today, the table was gone. So was her smile. So was her gentle voice. Just an empty sidewalk and a quiet lamppost. A vendor nearby said, The flower girl. Ambulance took her yesterday, still holding her bouquet. Noah rushed to the hospital. There she was, Lillian, lying quietly under soft light. Still her, but silent, not guessing time through footsteps anymore. When he entered, she smiled faintly. You brought your usual silence. Then softly, I'm getting eye surgery. There's hope, but no guarantee. She looked toward the window. I'm scared. Scared of what? Noah asked. That if I finally see, maybe nothing will be as beautiful as I imagined. She'd built the world through sounds, scents, vibrations, heartbeats. What if sight ruined all that? Noah held her hand, saying nothing, because sometimes silence is the only honest answer. She squeezed back, whispering, Thank you for coming. I just needed to know someone believes I'll still be me, even after I see. The pocket watch in Noah's coat still ticked, but today each beat felt slower, as if time itself was waiting and hoping too. It was a quiet autumn afternoon. Faint sunlight spilled across the golden leaves on Edmund's porch. Noah arrived carrying 2 cups of cinnamon tea and quiet news. Lillian is having surgery next week. Edmund wasn't surprised. He didn't ask questions. He just stared out the window for a long time, then asked softly, "Do you believe time knows when it should stop?" He pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was a pocket watch, still unwound, without ticking hands. "This is the last one I ever made," Edmund said. "But I never finished it. It wasn't meant to measure time, but to preserve a moment." He handed Noah a small rusty key. "In the basement, there's a room I haven't opened since Margaret passed. Inside is the full blueprint for this watch." Edmund looked at him, long, steady. "You're the only person I trust to make it come alive, the right way." The next morning, Edmund didn't answer the door. When his nephew Thomas opened it, his eyes were red. "He passed away last night," he whispered. Noah stood silently. He didn't cry. In his hand, the unfinished watch lay still. But now he understood. It wasn't built to count seconds. It was built to remember meaning. Noah couldn't sleep the night before Lillian's surgery. He waited in the hospital lounge, quietly holding Edmund's watch. No hands, no numbers. But for the first time, it didn't feel empty. When the nurse stepped out with a soft smile and a nod, his chest lifted with relief. Lillian had made it. The hospital room was bathed in gentle morning light. She lay still, bandages now replaced with a thin gauze. Noah sat beside her, holding her hand. It was cold but steady. He dozed off, still by her side. And then, for the first time in 15 years, Lillian opened her eyes. Everything was blurry, like a painting made of water. But she saw it, the light, the curtain, and the man slouched over beside her, sleeping, with messy hair and a kind, imperfect face. Tears filled her eyes. "You're not how I imagined you," she whispered, voice trembling. Noah stirred, looked up, and saw her gaze meeting his for the first time. She smiled through her tears. "But you're also not like anyone else." Noah didn't say anything. He opened his palm and placed Edmund's final watch in hers. No hands, no numbers. Just a single engraved line. "Now, the only time that matters." Lillian touched the watch gently. No ticking, no motion. Just peace. "This watch doesn't need to run," Noah said. "It only needs to exist when something real is happening." And there they sat, hand in hand, not counting time, not fearing the past, not rushing the future, just living the now. A week after Lillian opened her eyes, Noah returned to 1098 Maple Street, the place where it had all begun. There was no more clinking of metal, no scent of machine oil. The clocks were still ticking, steady, alive, yet the house somehow felt empty. Thomas, Edmund's only nephew, opened the door. He didn't say much. He simply handed Noah a letter, tied with a thin red string. The handwriting was shaky but clear. "To Noah, my friend of time." Noah sat down in the old armchair where Edmund used to rest. He opened the letter and read it slowly, as if to hear Edmund's voice one last time. "Noah, if you're reading this, I've likely already gone. But I didn't leave out of fear of time. I left because, at last, I had made peace with it. You came into my life like a clock hand after a long slumber. Not hurried, not loud, just steady and real. You reminded me, we can't hold on to a moment forever, but if we're brave enough to fully live each second, time will no longer be our enemy. I didn't need someone to extend my life. I just needed someone who could make my time feel alive again. And you did that. Don't forget the final watch. It doesn't measure hours or count minutes. It records the heart. Etch into it the moment you finally understand you're truly living." It ended with a single signature, Edmund. Noah folded the letter, his eyes blurred with emotion. He rose, walking down the hallway past all the clocks that now ticked with life, and stopped at the door. In his hand, he still held the watch that didn't tell time. This time, as he stepped outside, he wasn't a clockmaker anymore, but someone who carried a new kind of life within him. No rush, no race, just one truth to hold on to. Now, the only time that matters.